Your kids are bickering and you can feel your body tensing up, getting more and more irritated by the minute. You know you should say something before you snap, but you feel overwhelmed and frustrated because nothing you say ever seems to work in these situations. The good news is there are practical strategies to help you learn how to approach these challenging parenting situations with intention and confidence. I'm Dr. Lindsay, a clinical psychologist and mom of 4, and today I'll share these parenting tools with you using my 5 C's parenting framework. Let's dive in with the first C, communication. What many parents do when their kids are bickering is say something broad and vague like, "Cut it out, you guys," or "Can't you guys just be nice to each other?" But children need very clear guidance on what is expected of them. It's important that we use clear and specific directions to help guide our children. For example, use your calm voice or use your kind words. My favorite way to provide these very routine, everyday, gentle reminders to my children is to have a family mantra. A family mantra is a set of words that's used repetitively to help instill your family's core values in your children so they know what's expected of them on a regular basis. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. It's up to you. I prefer to have 5, and there are a few specific reasons for that. So the Emmerson family, which is our family, has the family mantra, happy, kind, respectful, helpful, gentle. These provide very clear cue words to my children that I can use as a first-line intervention whenever their behaviors begins to stray. I'll put a link in the description to a free download that I developed to help you develop your very own customized family mantra. What I love about using a family mantra is even though the behaviors that are going on at the present moment are unwanted and have sort of a negative tone, you're keeping the tone positive. So rather than saying, "Don't do that," "No, stop that," instead, you're saying, "Be kind, use respectful words, use gentle touch." So you're keeping it much more positive, which feels better to everyone involved. Now, when parents get irritated over siblings bickering and they jump in with a quick reaction, it often comes from feeling helpless. Having a family mantra means that you always know where to head first in your positive discipline strategy. You always start with an early intervention focusing on the family mantra and bringing attention to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you choose, core values that are key in your family. Now here's a bonus tip under this communication category. Nonverbal gestures, such as a hand moving down, signaling a softer voice, or a hand over heart, meaning kind words, can add extra weight to get your point across without saying anything else. These subtle differences in how you communicate with your children make a huge difference in promoting better behavior. Now let's move on to the second C in my 5 C's parenting framework, consistency. When it comes to managing sibling bickering, you can use consistency in your parenting to avoid the 5 nemesis of good behavior, things that make it difficult for most kids to behave well and are, to some degree, preventable. The 5 nemesis of good behavior are hunger, thirst, fatigue, heat, and being cooped up inside. There are things that you can do that take a little extra planning and attention, but are very worth the payoff of setting your child up for better behavior. For example, you can make sure that you're preparing protein-packed meals and frequent snacks to avoid low blood sugar-related irritability. Chances are you've experienced a hangry child before when you have hunger that leads to anger. To avoid the thirst nemesis, you can be sure to always carry an extra water bottle with you on outings. To avoid the fatigue nemesis, you can make sure that you're consistently enforcing early bedtimes. To avoid the heat nemesis, you can make sure that you're avoiding excessive heat through dressing appropriately and keeping cool. And to make sure that your kids do not get cooped up inside for too long, regularly schedule outdoor playtime. One more key way to use consistency to minimize bickering is to be sure that your child's day is scheduled but not overscheduled. Too many activities and social opportunities can overload kids, especially if you have a child who seems to be a little more introverted. Now, none of these things are excuses for poor behavior, but I find that being mindful of how I feel when I'm hungry or tired or overstimulated makes me more patient with my own children when I suspect that they're feeling the same way, even when the result is irritating bickering with their siblings. Now, let's talk about the choices and checkpoints category. This category has a lot to do with boosting parents' patience during irritated parenting moments as well. So the main idea here is understanding your child's developmental stage and how they view the world and presenting choices to them in an age-appropriate way to help improve the situation. Now, bickering is a normal part of sibling development. When your kids are bickering, they're actually learning important social skills like assertiveness and conflict resolution. They're building their emotional intelligence to become aware of, control, and express their emotions, which is essential for both personal and professional success in the future. It doesn't happen overnight though. It takes time for the brain to develop and for the cognitive processes involved in emotional intelligence to really become fully functional. Now, understanding your child's developmental level helps with building parental patience and helps you commit to teaching and nurturing their social skills. However, it is much better to intervene before you lose your cool, which is where choices come in very handy. Let me show you how you can use choices tied in with the consequences step in this sibling bickering scenario within the consequences category. Consequences simply mean any way that you react to your child that has the ability to change their behavior both now and in the future. The first thing to be aware of is intentionally choosing when to step in and when to let your kids work it out themselves. We want to build those conflict resolution skills, but we don't want the situation to get out of control. It's developing that intuitive sense that your children are on the edge of a precipice, and that comes with practice. So the longer you've been parenting, the longer you've been experiencing these kids together, or depending on how many kids you have, this particular dynamic together, the better sense you'll have of when we're getting close to that edge. Now, if you sense it escalating, you definitely want to be keeping a close ear on what's going on. If you're worried at all about it turning physical, you definitely want to intervene. If you have it in you, the very best thing to do in this situation is to gather your kids calmly and do what I like to call social skills training, where you review how they got to the present situation, how they're each feeling, what could have been done differently to prevent this rough patch, and then what can we do moving forward to promote better interactions. Now, this takes time and energy, so if you're at the end of your rope, it's also okay to present them with a clear choice. Stop bickering or separate and play in different areas. So you're using an if-then consequence. If you stop bickering, you may continue to play in the same area. If you do not stop bickering, then you have to separate. Now you know 2 ways that you can use consequences to stop the bickering and teach your child something that will affect their future behavior, either by increasing their knowledge of how successful social interactions work, or by teaching them that you will not allow bickering in your home. Now it's time for our 5th and final step in my 5 C's parenting framework. Check yourself involves getting intentional in your parenting, taking a look at the particular challenge you're facing, in this case, bickering children, and thinking through how you can improve the situation. This could involve actively running through the problem-solving process, setting family goals, or using quick tricks like humor more in your parenting. But today I want to focus in on coping skills for parents, because bickering can be so irritating and is a very frequent occurrence in most families, and because several of the strategies that we've talked about so far involve building up your own patience to help your kids learn to solve disagreements themselves, I want to equip you with 3 of my favorite coping skills for managing sibling bickering. The first one is a cognitive coping strategy, meaning that you're changing the way that you're thinking, and it involves doing a perspective shift. So just changing the way that you're viewing a situation. Rather than thinking of sibling bickering as so irritating and why can't they just get along, it involves thinking about what it's really like to be a sibling. Maybe you were a sibling yourself, or maybe you've witnessed other siblings, or maybe you can just put yourself in those shoes and think about how it's actually quite difficult to be around somebody all day, every day. Somebody that you didn't get to choose. It's not like when you chose your partner, if you have a long-term partner who you enjoy living with, it's somebody who was forced upon you. Your sibling just appears one day, and they're also vying for your parents' attention. So if we take that little perspective shift, and when we see our kids bickering, if we think about, well, what's it really like to be in their shoes? We can shift from a viewpoint of irritation to one of empathy. And it helps to just boost our patience and give our children a little more time to work things out themselves. The second coping skill I want to mention is a more of a physiological approach. So it has to do with your body and using your body to help control your mind. And it's the power of slow, deep breathing. So you're tapping into your body's autonomic nervous system by taking a slow, controlled inhale and a slow, controlled exhale. And you're telling your body to calm down. If you've never practiced deep breathing before, it can sound a little hokey, but you would be shocked how much just one slow, deep inhale followed by a slow, deep exhale can relax your shoulders and make you feel much more ready to approach any parenting challenge. Pair it with a few more deep breaths, and you might just be ready to turn the whole situation around into a positive moment with your kids. Now there's an added bonus here too, that when you get in the habit of doing this audible, deep breath in a tense parenting moment, your kids will start to pick up on that, and they'll realize that that means that things are getting a little intense for you, and sometimes that means that they'll become just a little more conscientious of how they're acting and perhaps change their behavior for the better. The third coping skill I want to mention is a behavioral coping skill, and this has to do with what you're doing, your activities, and it's the concept of distraction. So if you're finding your parenting to be really challenging at the moment, but you don't want to step in, you want to give your kids a little bit more freedom to solve this on their own and help to build some of those social skills that are going to be so important for them throughout life, what you might choose to do instead is to engage in an activity and focus your attention elsewhere. Maybe you're keeping an ear out so that if it escalates, you can step in, but you can be actively doing something like scrubbing the dishes or setting out the ingredients for dinner. Just keep that ear open in case you do need to intervene. So the next time you feel your body tensing in response to your children bickering, try out these coping skills and see if they help boost your patience and help you to intentionally choose to respond to your children rather than react emotionally to them. If you'd like that free resource that I created to help you develop your own family mantra and learn why I think a 5-point family mantra is so valuable, you can download your copy at drlindsayemmerson.com/mantra, M-A-N-T-R-A. And if you'd like to hear more about that social skills training process that I mentioned in step 4, check out my next video about 4 essential steps to guide your child through disagreements.